Okay, because both of my parents are currently working, we're going to be having a virtual audience today.
Hello, my name is Clara Brigado.
Hello, and I'm Sharon Deaton.
Okay, now on with the presentation. Imagine that you are joining a newly formed religious organization that prides itself on helping the poor and hungry. Every day, you and your fellow members hand out food and blankets, and every day you receive kind messages and thank yous in return. However, one day, your religious leader tells you and your fellow members to bomb the White House in order to save the people from the reptilian-controlled government. This religious organization is known as a cult. In 1999, author Philip Charles Lucas defined a cult as an abnormal religious organization that exploits their members and performs unethical actions in his book, Contemporary American Religions. Everybody has heard of at least one cult, be it the Manson family, the Heaven's Gate cult, or the Children of God's cult, or what we're going to be talking about today, the People's Temple cult. The People's Temple of the Disciples of Christ, more commonly known as just the People's Temple, was founded by Jim Jones in 1955. Today, I'll be informing you all about all the information I've learned after a few weeks of research about Jim Jones, Jonestown, and mass suicide that occurred. But before we can talk about that, let's begin with the founder, Jim Jones. According to a PBS article, who was Jim Jones? Jim Jones was persuasive, religious, charismatic, and ultimately murderous man. The article Jim Jones Biography, published by bibliography.com in April 2017, states that he began his career as a student pastor in the Somerset Methodist Church in a mostly white part of Indianapolis. He gained a reputation of being able to read minds and heal mental or physical disabilities through Christian methods. Jones wanted to create a racially integrated church. However, his church did not, since it was the 1950s and the Jim Crow laws were still in act. Jones in 1955 ended up creating the Wings of Deference Church, and in the 1960s, he gained about 100 followers. However, Jones became increasingly paranoid about concentration camps, martial laws, and nuclear war, along with accusations of tax evasion and cult activity. This led him to, in 1974, to buying a land in Guyana, a northern state in South America, and naming it Jonestown. And he brought his following of about 1,000 people there. Now that we've talked about Jim Jones, let's talk about the town he built, Jonestown. Jonestown was not a good place. A passage from the FBI article, Jonestown, states that Jonestown sounded more like a slave camp than a religious center. It was true. Jones did not treat his followers humanely. The Britannica article Jonestown by Alison Eldridge states that notable actions include humiliation, beatings, blackmail, and brainwashing. People are also forced to hand over their personal belongings to the church, and minority groups, such as people of color, were told that if they ever left the cult, they were going to be put into concentration camps. Families were torn apart and encouraged to snitch on each other. The article Lessons from Jonestown, written by Melissa Dittman in November 2003 in the American Psychological Association, states that Jones would blast messages from loudspeakers so that his voice would be constantly heard whenever the followers spoke, whenever the followers ate, slept, or worked. Julia Shears, the author of 1,000 Lives, The Untold Story of Hope, Deception, and Survival at Jonestown, recalls that the workers performed intense labor under harsh heat with armed guards watching them every day. She also said that that the followers would often drink a mixture that they thought contained poison or to prove their loyalty. However, they would soon experience the real thing. Now that we've talked about all the terrible things that occurred in Jonestown, let's talk about the mass suicide event that ended it all. The FBI states that on November 14th, Congressman Leo Robbins decided to visit Jonestown after hearing about it from Sammy Houston, the father of a former member that was worried about his relatives still in the cult, and Deborah Layton Blakey, who said that Jonestown was like a prison camp and that there were threats of mass suicide there. Ryans arrived at Jonestown with his congressional delegation, government officials, a group of reporters, and families who wanted to bring their relatives back. Ryans met with Jones and many members. Unsurprisingly, many of the members wanted to leave with Jones. However, they needed to wait for a second plane in order to take everyone. On November 18th, the second plane arrived. Jones was scared that if he let Ryans and the group leave, that more members would try to leave and more congressmen would try to enter Jonestown. So when Ryans and all the other followers were at the airstrip, a dump truck filled with armed men that Jones had sent began shooting. This ended up killing many people and ended up wounding many more. Meanwhile, back at Jonestown, Jones ordered all the followers to drink a mixture of cyanide and Kool-Aid, and flavoring in order to kill themselves. People who are unwilling to had it injected into their veins with syringes, and children and babies who were too young to drink it had it squirted down their throats with needleless syringes. Jones, however, died of a gunshot wound to the head. According to the FBI, more than 9,000 cultists, including more than 200 children, were soon laying lifeless on the ground. Now that we've talked about the mass suicide event, let's head on to the conclusion. The Jonestown Massacre is considered the greatest mass suicide event in modern time, according to the Guinness Book of World Records. Jones was a very charismatic guy who was able to convince people to join his cult by targeting their interests and preventing them from leaving. The cult itself was far from what he promised. Frequent humiliation, beating, blackmail, and brainwashing, combined with threats of the outside world, all prevented the followers from leaving. This all accumulated in the mass suicide event that killed over 900 people. In conclusion, I hope I was able to inform you all about the nightmare event that was the Jonestown Massacre. Thank you.